Good morning. Bonjour, bonjour, et bienvenue. Welcome to the Baltimore Museum of Art. My name is Elizabeth Callahan. I'm the Chief Education Officer here, and it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you to today's program. We are so honored to welcome you to this special program exploring Henri Matisse and the Vence Chapel, a work Matisse himself called the culmination of his artistic and spiritual journey, which is quite a thing to say for someone who was so accomplished. We're fortunate to have 80 extraordinary drawings that Matisse created for the final mural at the Chapel of the Rosary in Vence. We'll have these on view through the end of June in the exhibition. These works have never before been shown altogether, and many of them have never before left France. So that's one of the reasons why we're so honored to have this here at the museum. We're grateful for the generous loans from the Chapel of the Dominican Sisters in Vence, from our co-organizer Musée Matisse Nice, under the direction of Améric Judy. We'd also like to recognize the guest curator and accomplished art historian, Yves Lambois, for his work on bringing this together, and for my colleagues, Katie Rothkopf, the Anne and Ben Cohn director of the Ruth R. Martyr Center for Matisse Studies, and Laura Albans, the Martyr Center curatorial research associate. A lot of you may already know this, but I think it bears repeating, that the BMA has the world's largest public collections of works by Henri Matisse. The world's largest public holding of works by Henri Matisse. It's very remarkable to have this here in Baltimore, but every object in the show that you will see today, or hopefully you've already seen, they come from collections around the world. So this is indeed a rare opportunity to see all of these drawings in one place, and we're the only US venue for this show. This BMA presentation is supported by Nancy Dorman and Stanley Mazeroff, the Pierre and Tana Matisse Foundation, and the estate of Carolyn Lee Smith. The audio guide, which I hope you will enjoy, was made possible with support from the Lilly Endowment, and one of the audio guide speakers is here today in the audience. In addition to the honor of hosting these magnificent works of art, today we are equally honored to welcome two remarkable guests visiting from France, Dominican brothers Charles Desjobert and Marc Chauveau, whose scholarship, curatorial leadership, and lived connection to the Chapel of the Rosary in Vence offer us a rare and deeply informed perspective on this extraordinary work. Brother Charles Desjobert is a Dominican friar and heritage architect whose expertise bridges sacred art, architecture, and liturgical design. He teaches the history and evolution of liturgical architecture at the École de Chaillot in Paris, the school responsible for training all of the architects who steward France's historic monuments. He's worked on numerous sacred architecture projects throughout France, and also, very interestingly, designed the furnishings for the museum at the Chapel of the Rosary in Vence. So you'll see images in the exhibition that include his furnishing designs. He resides at the Couvent de la Tourette, the celebrated Le Corbusier-designed UNESCO World Heritage Site, which, if you ever have a chance to visit, is truly, it's transcendent. It really is a remarkable place, and I cannot believe you two get to live there. Brother Marc Chauveau is a Dominican friar and art historian with 2 decades of experience curating contemporary art exhibitions in dialogue with spirituality and the sacred. He has organized more than 20 exhibitions at Le Couvent de la Tourette and has collaborated with internationally renowned artists, including Anish Kapoor and Anselm Kiefer. He's now based in Paris, where he curates exhibitions at the Galerie Saint-Séverin and oversees commissions for contemporary artworks in religious spaces, including major projects for a small church you might have heard of called Notre Dame. In recognition of his contributions to the arts, he was named a Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters in 2023. We are incredibly grateful for the two of them for making the trip to visit us and to share some of their knowledge today. Please help me in welcoming brothers Charles Desjobert and Marc Chauveau.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a real joy for us, Brother Marc and I, to be with you today and to take this time to share with you this extraordinary chapel in Vence, the result of 4 years of intense work by Matisse. So we are two Dominican friars, brothers, and for several years now we've been working together with the Dominican sisters in Vence, supporting them in keeping in open, welcoming and alive the chapel. Over the years we've worked on the museum, on its exhibition design, and more recently, for example, on the complete restoration of the chapel roof. And today, we'd like to share with you the story of how this chapel came into being through a wide range of documents, archival materials, preparatory drawings, photograph plans, many of which have never been shown before. We've chosen to present this more as a conversation, something fairly open and informal in a way, and we hope you will be patient for and with our imperfect English. So we have to say that we are very impressed to be here. Our presentation will unfold 3 parts. We'll look at the people first involved in the project, 4 key figures and their friendship. Henri Matisse, of course, Sister Jacques-Marie, Brother Louis-Bertrand Resiguier, and Father Couturier. Then we will explore what we might call an architecture of color and line. And finally, we'll reflect on a total work of art, the culmination of a lifetime's work. But to begin, I now hand over to Brother Marc, who clearly knew Sister Jacques-Marie and also celebrate her funeral several years ago. Brother Marc.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. I apologize for my English. Please be. So let's start by listening to a few words from Matisse as he presented the chapel to the Bishop of Nice during the blessing ceremony in June 1951. I humbly present to you the chapel of the Rosary of the Dominican Sister of Vence. This work required 4 years of my exclusive and assiduous labor, and it is the culmination of my entire working life. Despite all its imperfections, I consider it my masterpiece. That is the result of a life devoted to the pursuit of truth. Let's go back now to the chapel origin. During the Second World War, Matisse, who was living in Nice, had just undergone major surgery that required attentive care at home and the assistance of a nurse. Monique Bourgeois, then a young nursing student, was looking for a job as a caregiver. She was hired in 1942 by Matisse as a night nurse. In addition to providing him with medical care, she read books to him during his long, sleepless night. The conversation between Matisse and Monique Bourgeois gradually became marked by mutual respect, candor, and ultimately friendship. The following year, the artist asked her to become one of his models. Monique Bourgeois, though, posed for 4 paintings and some 20 charcoal or pen and ink drawings. In these paintings, one of them belonged to the collection Agnelli in Torino. Tabac Royal, voilà. And 20 drawings. In 1944, responding to a calling of religious life, Monique Bourgeois entered the Dominican Sisters of Monteil, a congregation of sisters who taught and provided care. She took the Dominican habit and was given the name of Sister Jacques Marie. The prospect of never seeing her again came as a shock to Matisse. Throughout 1945, they exchanged several letters. Sister Jacques Marie wrote about her life in the convent, and she received in June and May and June, 2 long letters from Matisse, and she published these letters. They are very interesting because we discover what sought exactly in his art, Matisse. Deeply moved by his former model's new life, he wrote her letters in a personal nature and confided that their lives might not be so different after all. He wrote, "Like you, I direct all my energies towards the same spiritual horizon, and my efforts differ from yours only in appearance. My work is worthwhile only through the admiring contemplation of the Creator's work. Our paths run parallel within the same spiritual realm. I go every morning," writes Matisse, "to say my prayers, pencil in hand, before a tree covered in flowers. I do this not with a scientific mind, but filled with admiration for the divine work." He considers himself here on earth as having been chosen by the Most High to renew in the mind of the others the vision of things that led to an elevation of the spirit, culmination in the Creator. These letters from Matisse bear witness to the trust and friendship that bound Matisse and Sister Jacques Marie together. In 1946, Sister Jacques Marie was sent by his superior to the Dominican sister in Vence. Voilà. She was sent to a Dominican sister in Vence who ran a convalescent home next to the Villa Le Rêve. And the Villa Le Rêve, it's a villa where Matisse lived. It is 100 meters between the Dominican sister home and the villa. So it was really a good news for Matisse and Sister Jacques Marie. And when he wrote a letter to a friend of him and said, "Every morning I like to see my nuns on bicycle, driving in front on the road." Yes, lots of emotion for him. And voilà. So they met again. At this time, the sister didn't have a real chapel. And in 1947, Matisse offered to create a stained glass window based on Sister Jacques Marie watercolor drawings depicting the Assumption of the Virgin. So she made these watercolor drawings, and Matisse proposed to help her and to create for their little chapel, not very nice, a stained glass windows. So now, the architecture. So, yes, they are very, very close.
And you see some of the letters with these amazing flowers going through. Pour celle qui donne pour le plaisir de donner. For the one who give for the pleasure of giving things. À Sœur Jacques, dominicaine.
Christmas.
Yeah, 1948.
In the archives, we have many letters like that.
At just 28 years old, then a young Dominican friar, Brother Louis Bertrand Resiguier, drew the very first plans for what would become the Chapel of Vence. It was late 1947 when he presented these sketches to Henri Matisse, who was then living nearby at Villa-le-Rêve, as we said. Let us begin at the origin of this unlikely partnership, because nothing seems to predestine this encounter. In the autumn of 1947, Brother Resiguier, in fragile health, was recovering in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, a city just nearby Vence. Curious and intellectually engaged, especially with architecture and modern art, he decided to visit a nearby Dominican convent, the Sister of Monteil, in Vence. And there, he asked a simple question. Were there any notable artists in the area he might meet? And of course, the answer came quickly. Matisse lived just steps away. In a rather bold move, the Mother Superior suggests that the young friar introduce himself not as a visitor, but as the architect for their long-delayed chapel project. He is not at all an architect. He agreed. And he went to meet the artist. Resiguier arrived with sketches in hand. In fact, he has already drawn the full project in a way. And Matisse immediately found the design very original. Yeah, it's not at all a design of an architect. You see that the plan and the walls are very thin. It's just the interior of the chapel. He designed it from the inside. Yes. So he designed only the inside of the walls, and so there is no. They are very thin, and also the facade, the inside facade, with these very vertical windows, semicircular windows in a kind of neo-Romanesque way. So it's not a proper design for an architect. But Matisse found this design very original. Within a single afternoon, the essential vision of the chapel had already begun to take shape. Matisse would design the stained glass, and together they imagine a unified work. From that moment on, a dialogue began. And Resiguier carefully recorded in his journal all these things, daily journal. Over the following weeks, their collaboration deepened. And Matisse, increasingly engaged, moved beyond stained glasses towards a total artistic conception. He even wrote that he could already see the church as if it were completed. But creative alignment rarely lasts without tension. By the spring of 1948, difference began to emerge because Matisse developed his own vision of what the chapel should be. And for Resiguier, this became a moment of doubt. He was not a trained architect, and therefore and after consulting professionals, he began to fear that his design might be technically flawed. And in a remarkably honest letter, he told Matisse that the project should perhaps be handed over to a qualified architect. Matisse refused first, but because he said, if it is to produce something banal, I will do nothing. But afterward, he started to explore alternatives and turned to the renowned architect Auguste Perret. And Auguste Perret produced new plans, more conventional, more correct in an architectural terms. He altered proportions, expanded openings, and imposed, in a way, a more academic and modern structure. But after a while, Matisse rejected them and returned to Resiguier. And this marks a decisive turning point. Not only did Matisse reaffirm his confidence in the young friar, he went further. He told him, I need a partner. I can do nothing without you. And then he chose what he named his kindly brother architect. What followed was an extraordinarily intense period of collaboration. Beginning in winter of 1948, the two men met almost daily for nearly a year. Together, they worked through every detail. Stained glass, of course, but then ceramics, liturgical furnitures, the altar, even the roof tiles, and so on. What is especially striking is how each saw their works as parallel. And at the end, Matisse said, we made this by pushing one another forward. So at the end, it was the project, the Resiguier project, that has been finished. And Resiguier is the architect of the chapel in a way. But this part disappeared step by step because the poor Resiguier brother died at the age of 36 years old, just few years after the end of the construction work. Another brother, quickly because he is famous, but in the same time we don't want to spend too much time on it, is the Father Couturier. Father Couturier was the director of a very well-known journal, L'Art Sacré. Very important in France because it's thanks to this specific journal that we've got the first church with modern art. Le Plateau d'Assy, and then Vence, then Ronchamp, Le Corbusier, and then La Tourette Convent by Le Corbusier again. So he went and he was in charge to speak with Mother Agnès, the superior, to have a deal with her because the sisters were a bit afraid by this modern project by Matisse. And first, it was difficult for them to say, okay, let's go. Let's try this work. And so then he succeeded to convince her to grant Matisse permission to do the chapel. So you see here the first, you have the first house for the sisters, a very nice house. It was an hotel previously, and the sisters buy it to welcome ladies of fragile health ladies. And then they buy this house here, and the chapel was built between these two houses. And in fact, it's very important to see that because it's the shape of the place, the natural shape that produced the plan also of the chapel. On the south facade, you have the stained glass windows open to the sea and to the village of Vence, the city of Vence. And on the other side, because of the slope, as the ground is not flat, you have full walls that are closed, and it's not possible to open windows. And so they have to, yeah, you see the road, and then you've got this slope going down step by step. And because it's not flat, you have this specificity of the chapel, three walls. Three walls with windows, and three walls that are dark. And he has to think a way to make them alive. What is also interesting is that they put the altar in a very strange way, facing the east, in a specific direction, and the sisters can look to Saint Dominic, their patron saint, and to the Virgin Mary from the stalls, from their seat. So it's interesting, but they can't see for example, the passions of the cross, which is seen only by the priest in a way, from the altar direction. And the people that are coming in the chapel, they don't see neither the stations of the cross, sorry. Yeah. They see only the tree of life in the stained glass that we are going to see then. This is the first stones for the construction works, construction site. So of course, what is interesting here is that this model is in the exhibition here. So it has been, and this model has been designed by the brother Resiguier. So the sister Jacques-Marie do a more large model, an inside model, and brother Resiguier this specific model then. Yeah, so you've got the bishop here, Sister Jacques, Sister Jacques-Marie, and the mayor of Vence. And Matisse here at the end of the construction of the chapel.
Painting, photo of Matisse on the.
Then an architecture of color and line.
Despite its relatively modest size, the chapel's proportion creates a wonderful sense of space, where one does not feel constrained by the weight of the walls. What I have achieved in the chapel, said Matisse, was the creation of a sacred space. I took a small, enclosed space and, through the interplay of colors and lines alone, gave it infinite dimensions. So it's good to recall that Matisse have published Jazz in 1947, so 1 year before he started to work. A book in which he juxtaposed a page covered in black and white text with a page of colored drawings, created using the technique of cut-out gouache paper, which is saw as a play on the contrast between black and white lines and colors. With the chapel, est-ce que tu peux montrer la suivante, s'il te plaît? With the chapel, he took this exploration a step further. The colorful harmony of the stained glass windows, bathed in the light, is projected onto the large black and white design on the ceramic panels. There is no longer any contrast, but rather a projection of colors onto the design. So it's a step further. He said the role of painting is to expand surfaces to make the dimensions of the wall disappear. With the chapel, I was able to work on the architecture, the stained glass windows, and large wall mirrors on ceramic tiles, and bring all these elements together, blending them into a perfect unity. So, Brother Charles, would you please speak about the stained glasses?
So then Matisse started to work on the stained glass windows. You have 15 very thin one, like the 15 Mysterium of the Rosary. And you have the two double windows for the Tree of Life. But at the beginning, it starts by a first project named The Bees. So les abeilles. So you see that this project was done on the Auguste Perret version. The windows are larger, and you don't have the semicircular end for these windows, because it was when he started to work with the Perret, Auguste Perret plan, but then he changed, and he has to get away from this version. And this version is interesting because it's, in a way, the sister community with the black and white habit, vestment of the sisters, like bees, moving in the sky. So that's very unusual, and it's very interesting how he do that. And then he works with the double stained glass window, and he named this first project the Heavenly Jerusalem, la Jérusalem Céleste. And he moved from a very, in a way, quite static drawing design with this cut paper things to something slightly different, with this idea of the cactus, and he named that the blue stained glass. And it's, you know, the cactus is something that endures in the desert, that stay alive even if the water is there is not enough water. And from this project, he moved then to the final project named the Tree of Life. You see that. So he moved also from the Villa Le Rêve to the Regina Hotel in Nice. Why? Also because he need more space to work on these very large and high windows, and so he need a very high ceiling, very tall rooms. And you see here, it's quite nice to see that he has to roll the stained glass windows in order to have them they fit in the walls of his room. At the end, you have these amazing colorful windows with three colors. So the lemon yellow, the emerald green, and the ultramarine blue. And he spent a lot of time to find the yellow color, the lemon yellow ones. It's the most difficult to achieve for him. And he was helped by Father Couturier for that. And by also Paul Bonny, no, I think Paul Bonny worked with this. And because you see, for the green and the blue, you see the city of Vence toward, and the garden. So it's the life around, it's very transparent, and the life around come into the chapel. But with the yellow, it's translucent, so translucent, and you couldn't see through them. But it's give a very strong color, yellow color in the chapel. And on the ground, you see just the blue and the green coming. And also you see, so it's like leaves going up, and at the top, it's like a curtain. So it's as if these leaves are fixed, like a large curtain that you can move, and the sun is coming through. And the tree of life, it's also interesting. So you have this curtain, but in the same time, he broke this idea of just a normal curtain by extending the colors to the side of the windows.
And now have a look over the panels. 3 design on ceramic tiles from the 3 large wall panels depicting Saint-Dominique, the Virgin and Child, and the Stations of the Cross. In Matisse's own words, they represent the spiritual essence and explain the monument's significance. They represent for him the culmination of a long preparatory process during which Matisse produced numerous drawings and sketches, striving to gradually simplify and refine them by eliminating any detail he deemed superfluous, retaining only the essential line. So the first panel we are going to see is Saint-Dominique in the choir. To prepare to the full-length depiction of the saint, he had Father Couturier pose for him on several occasions and produced numerous sketches on pages of school notebooks of saint silhouette. Voilà. So it is interesting to explain. Voilà. Non, mais on ne va pas tellement là-dessus. He thought a lot about Sister Jacques-Marie. he has the model of Father Couturier, but in fact, he thought about Sister Jacques-Marie. It was interesting. But at the beginning, at the start of his preparatory work for Saint-Dominique, he sketches facial feature, eyes, nose, and mouth. And he gradually moved away from this detail, explaining a simple mark is enough to suggest a face. There is no need to impose eyes, mouth on people. We must have the field open to the viewer's imagination. So several photographs show him in bed, drawing on the walls or ceiling with a piece of charcoal attached to the hand of a pool. And in the exhibition, you have a big pool like that. So it is interesting to see how he worked with this big pool. And he drew portraits of his grandchildren on ceiling or sketches for the Saint-Dominique painting in the chapel. And look on the wall, you have the drawings of Saint-Dominique. So for him it was important because he started with pages of paper, and after he worked at the scale 1. So for him it was important to see the effect in the architectural dimension. So it's a good step just before he starts for the chapel. Voilà. This is a design by a design with charcoal on the plaster on the wall. This have been removed and stick on canvas in a museum. It's very fragile, but we kept the memory of this. So It is interesting in this in his studio in the Hotel Regina, on the top of the hill over Nice. As Brother Charles said, there is a large size for the studio to work for the Station of Cross, Saint-Dominique, with a big size, nearly the same size as the chapel. So it's very important for him.
And so we went to this final design is done in very few hours at the end.
Yes.
For the Virgin Mary, so yeah, you have also here, he worked a lot on the hands because traditionally...
we said that, yes, the tradition is, said, the Dominican said that Saint Dominic had with him always the Gospel of Matthew, according to Matthew. So it's the book of the Gospel.
Yeah, and the hand became like a flame going up.
And I have some other pictures. No.
So then the Ave with the Ave Maria, the beginning of the prayer to the Virgin Mary. Here, and so you see this very amazing and very very full of tender and soft drawing with the Virgin Mary, the mother. She's giving us her child, her son, and he's having his hand like the cross in a way, but in the same time he seems to play. Like he's flying in a way with all these clouds around that are in fact also flowers, and the flowers, the rosary flowers, les fleurs du rosaire, les roses, that are surrounded the Virgin Mary. And he worked a lot with the link between the two heads of the mother and the child. And now they can also play together. He starts with a real person and move step by step, as he's doing always, trying to find a way to have the stars or the flowers around this lady. And
just before, it's a question. No, voilà. Brother Rességuier asked to Matisse to create a virgin like a modern wife, like a woman. Because when a woman go inside the church, she look at the Virgin and it's like her. And Matisse said, he tried one and said, no, I won't make a Virgin Mary unfashionable because in 10 years it was unfashionable.
And so he moved from this.
So it was interesting because they
it's very interesting to see the discussion between the brother and Matisse. We can have time to see. So you have all these stars moving around, and step by step also, like for the eyes or the mouth, he moved from... but of course all these drawings are part of an incredible creation.
Yes, beautiful. So, voilà.
And so always the difficulty is to move from the local drawings to the whole one, the big ones. As he is also with a poor health.
Yes, it's incredible, very strong to do this, to draw with a certain distance. And it is interesting. It is interesting to see that he starts to draw the Virgin and Child with a big coat, royal coat, yes? Because it's a traditional representation of the Virgin. And after, more simply, and after you have only the silhouette of the Virgin like a young lady, yes, a daughter. And the model was a young daughter, 14, 15, and Matisse said, Sister Jacques-Marie told me this, that he said to Sister Jacques-Marie, I have to draw quickly, because she's becoming a lady. He wanted to catch the moment. You see what I mean? Young daughter, clack, lady. And he wanted to, it's very interesting to know this. Voilà. Excuse me. T'as des choses à rajouter? Tu me coupes la parole, hein, si tu veux. The third panel in the chapel, located in the back. You see, on the right, you have the white door. It's the door, the entrance. So when you go inside the chapel, you don't see the Station of the Cross. First of all, you see the stained glasses, the altar, Saint Dominic, Virgin Mary. And when you sit on the chairs, you look near the altar. And when you go back, you go outside, okay, suddenly you discover the Station of the Cross. So it's different. And with a still distinct from the two previous panels, the lines are broken, angular, evoking the violence of the Passion. It is the result of a long and painstaking creative process. Over the course of 2 years, Matisse produced dozens of preparatory drawings, and you can see most of them here for the exhibition, in the exhibition. Before each working session to the Station of the Cross, the artist would first have someone read him a passage from the Passion in the Gospel, and also a meditation on each station. And after, he invites a young man, Rosal, who served as his model, to assume the posture suggested by the text. And after, alone in his studio, Matisse makes drawings and drawings and drawings. And it is so from the beginning, the very beginning of the creative process of the Station of Cross, Matisse decided to bring together the 14 stations on a single panel rather than having a series of 14 small paintings, independent, hung along the walls as it is traditional in the church. Okay? The stations are arranged. If you follow the number, you see, the stations are arranged in an ascending path that winds like the climb of Calvary towards the Station of Crucifixion, located at the top, in the center of the composition. So it's a way climbing to the Golgotha. And Matisse explained his decision to bring all the stations together by pointing out that they form a single and unified drama. And he wrote to the Mother Superior of the Dominicans, the Station of Cross is humanity's deepest drama. And faced with this drama, the artist cannot remain a mere spectator. He must commit himself. These drawings must come from your art. It is not beauty I must create, but truth. Ce n'est pas de la beauté qu'il me faut faire, mais de la vérité. It is not beauty I must create, but truth. Voilà, c'est très bien. Eager to follow in the iconographic tradition of the Station of Cross, Matisse copied and drew inspiration from painting by the great master of Western art. For Christ before Pontius Pilate, I try myself. It trained me. Because in French it's Ponce Pilate. Pontius Pilate, the first station of the Station of Cross, Matisse drew inspiration from a work by Mantegna, The Judgment of St. James. He then produced numerous studies, particularly of the Roman soldiers surrounding Christ, in which he captures the detail before gradually stripping down his drawing. And in the exhibition, you have a fantastic selection of drawings who show you step by step the different states that Matisse made. And you can understand and see how it's more simple, more simple, more simple. And it takes off all the superfluous detail of the drawings to keep the pure line. Voilà, c'est bien. So we have different drawings here for the first station, the Christ. So it try with charcoal, ink with pen, pencil, brush, and so this picture is interesting to make you understand how Matisse worked. Look, you have on the wall paper, and he draw on the paper, scale 1, okay? But look on the floor, you have the tiles. You have the tiles. You can see? So when Matisse paint the Station of Cross, he was over some box, and with a big roll, he painted on the floor, on the tiles put on floor. You see what I mean? So after, these tiles have been cooked, no, fired, and put on walls after. You see? So it is interesting. It is a little detail, but it's important to understand how he made this. You see? Voilà.
And at the end, he is doing the drawing just one time. He say, I can't do it anymore. So even there are some of the tiles that are broken after they have been fired. But he say, okay, it doesn't matter. I keep the tiles broken. So they are broken since the beginning. But I can't just redo few tiles, few part of the drawing. It's like this.
Because he during 2 years, he made drawings, and to have inside him, it's very intimate. And when he painted it in 4 hours, so in 4 hours, he have given everything, all the 2 years of preparation. And for him, it was impossible to do it a second time. He have given totally, it's finished. He can't do it again. So it's very interesting for this. So you have time, so you have pictures here, but it's better to see the drawings here. And you see, you have mouth, eyes, and after he take off, voilà, the Christ meet his mother. And it is interesting to see these drawings in charcoal, because you can understand how Matisse, the research of Matisse. He drew, voilà, and he start again. He wanted to find the good line.
Figure at the end, the only face is the one on the veil of Saint Veronique veil. So there is no other figure face, but only this one. kept and fixed on the veil. It's very also striking in many ways.
Mm. Yes, you see, it's written, yes, d'après Rubens. So it is very interesting that a great artist as Matisse had the humility to start to copy again, to copy masterpiece of the old master of the art. And after, he's free and take off some details to keep only the good line. So I like very much this humility of this great artist. And for the study of the legs of the sheet for Christ on the cross illustrate, and you have lots of drawings of the 12 stations, and with the different drawing with the legs more and more simple. So you have the ongoing creative process. And you see, the only face in the chapel is in fact the face of the Christ, but it's like a death face.
No longer moving face in a way.
Mm-hmm.
To conclude, yeah.
Just, the result of this station of cross is striking for the violence it exudes, which is found nowhere else in his oeuvre. And in response to the criticism, Matisse published an article in which he reiterated that for the Station of the Cross, he had to focus on truth rather than beauty.
So to conclude, we've got the third part, a few minutes. A total work of art, the culmination of a lifetime's work. It's interesting to see that the chapel is in fact a combination of different very classical plan. You've got the what we name le plan basilical, the basilical plan in this long rectangular plan, but this usual plan and the Latin cross plan is mixed with the Greek plan with this Greek cross central with the altar in the middle, and also an L traditional plan for sisters, because for away from the 17th century you've got the sister, they are a bit hide in a corner in the L of the church. And so you have these three plans connected, and as we told you, we see specific things from different points. It's not the same if you're a sister, if you're the people coming to pray, or the priest. In the middle, the altar, with this very amazing stone that are very different from the marble around it. And on the altar, you've got the tabernacle. The tabernacle is in between, inside the altar. So it's a very unusual position in a way, like a book that seems to be put on the altar. And the candlesticks, very thin, like anemone flowers. So he came from flowers, and you have like the leaves of the flower, and the flower itself, very thin, and in the middle, the cross. So like and in the middle, the Christ in the middle. That remind maybe you also what he has done with La Serpentine. This so you've got here a very joyful Christ in a way of resurrection, very simple, very joyful, and it's very strong also for the because this Christ is in the very middle of the chapel, just under the big spire, the big cross at the top of the chapel. So you see all these drawing prepare. So here he decided to change from he first drew this one and then he changed to another more simple new foot.
Instead of. Voilà. So the tabernacle.
He also so here you see the tabernacle.
Pardon. Excuse me.
And just under the ciborium, so to keep the consecrated hosts, and so the body of Christ. And on the ciborium, le ciboire, you have the fish, the very first representation of Christ and the Christian community. And he makes also many fishes, and he drew them also for the altar cloth. Yes. And you have here, we find way a few years ago.
We discovered these two drawings in the archives of the sisters.
So they were hiding in the just there and waiting for someone to find them.
So it's very interesting because look, it's no, voilà.
And so it's the cloth, the altar cloth. Upon
voilà.
You may see it.
So it's very beautiful. So it is interesting. Excuse me, Charles, but do you see that Matisse have thought about every detail? Every detail. It's a work of art total.
Yeah.
Voilà.
Total piece of art. Yeah. Here you see also this, so this is at the entrance of the chapel, just before you go down, because you have to walk down the stairs to join the chapel. And here you've got this also very interesting stained glass window with this fish with trying to go out, to move out from the net with the star at the top. So it's also an image of the freedom and liberty that you.
Just one word
for the confession door, the door of the confessional
in carved wood. It was influenced by this moucharabier.
So you have a piece of Algerian or Moroccan kind of work also in the chapel.
He brought back this from Morocco.
And you have this amazing door that is
carved wood.
Carved wood door, very nice. And the light inside seems always quite pink because. Purple because the whole color of the chapel is green and blue, and whereas the room here is in fact white, because of the main color of the chapel that is blue, green, and a bit yellow, you've got this very pink color coming, and that's so very amazing and very strong. The entrance, the tiles, so we just refurbished all the roof, so that was probably just the entrance. And at the entrance, you see, so you have the
Saint-Dominique,
the titulate, the name of the chapel in a way, Chapel of the Rosary for Dominican sisters. So you have Saint Dominic, the Virgin Mary with child, and the cross in the middle.
I like very much the kindness between the mother and child.
And he sum up
very simple, but you can feel all the love between the mother and child.
And so it's a sum up, in fact, of the three panels you've got in the chapel: Saint Dominic, the way of the stations of the cross and the Virgin Mary.
Ah oui.
Here it's the same, so you see the garden around, the tondo. So this is more a complicated drawing, difficult to understand, but it's still the Virgin Mary and child. And of course at the top this amazing cross. So he spent a lot of time to design the bell, so this cross for the bell, and also at the top. And it's like he say it should be like a bird, a little bird coming on the top. And for an architect, and Millon Payon, the architect in charge of the construction, was a bit upset by this project because he said for an architectural point of view, it's a very bad idea to have such a big cross on the top of tiles. It's an opposition. It's in a way a bit crazy. But in fact, it's very strong. And so you see, he tried to work the proportion, the altar and the cross, and the whole chapel with the cross. And it's like he say, it's a question of proportion, but it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I have to make it it's something on the top.
It's a sketches for the roof.
So the roof also, this very amazing roof made thanks to this cut out paper. And of course.
T'as terminé là? So it is another work of art, total. And Matisse had a discussion with Father Couturier to create the liturgical vestment, the chasubles, and also the little, comment on dit, the stole. And so he prepared models with a paper cut gouache on the wall. And the form. So it's interesting, Father Couturier and Matisse in the Louvre, in the National Archives in Paris, with the vestment of the Night of the Holy Spirit, a very old vestment of the 16th century. So they look at this, they try. So Matisse created vestment for the different moment of the year, in white for the big feast and Easter and Christmas. So you have the chasuble behind and in the back. You have the stalls and different veil for the caliche, for example. And so look. The Father Couturier said, you are totally free, but respect the colors, and you should put one cross on the front and behind. That's all. After, you are free to do what you want. So it's perfect for him. So, voilà, c'est for the ordinary time. In green, sorry, in red for the Pentecost, for example, for the Passion on the Holy Friday, Good Friday.
So
and
Spirit Apostles.
Yes, and when you celebrate in the church, it's an œuvre d'art total. So in purple for Advent.
Yeah, Advent for Lent.
Lent. And the pink is only for 2 Sundays, half Advent, half Lent. 2 Sundays called in front in Gaudete, Sunday of Gaudete, and Sunday of Letare, joys. And also, at the origin, before the Council Vatican II, they used the black vestment for the funeral. But here, but now they use very.
The purple one.
yes, with the purple. I just want to show you this detail. C'est like du blé. How do you say du blé? Wheat. Matisse said to the father couturier, when you died and you will arrive at heaven, you will have in your arm a big part of this, like la moisson of your life, with all your good action, and you bring
them
in the heaven with this. I like very much this.
And you have this old, this word from Provençal, le Lucat, Esperlucat. That means reopening your eyes. Yeah, and
To the light.
To the light, and it's a very, very nice word. That sounds very nice also in French. Esperlucat. Esperlucat.
And for the black one, Matisse have realized 6 models, and the Dominicans have chosen 2. And Father Couturier, when he saw this, he said, "But you do more and more and more model for the black one, and it is less sad, but it is full of joys." And Matisse said, "But the death, it's a new life you start." So that's full of esperance. And you have still here, Esper Lucat. So let us conclude by considering Matisse's perspective on his chapel. He wrote that for him, this chapel is a culmination of a lifetime of work and the fruit of an enormous, sincere and difficult effort. This is not a job I chose, but one for which I was chosen by fate at the end of my journey, a journey I continue through my research, with the chapel giving me the opportunity to preserve it by bringing it all together. Now, since 75 years, there is still a community of Dominican sisters in the chapel. They continue to live, to pray, to welcome people, to visit. So it's a lively place. It is not a museum. Okay? So when you stay here, it's very important because it's a place you continue to live as Matisse have prepared for the Dominicans. I would like to yes.
To finish.
Among the many visitors to the chapel, let us conclude by mentioning Le Corbusier's visit in August 1951, so 2 months after the inauguration, the blessing. And he wrote a letter to Matisse, a short letter. I went to see the chapel of Vence. Everything there is joy, clarity, and youth. Your work has given me a burst of courage. Not that I lack it, but I have filled my wineskin. This little chapel is a powerful testament to what is true. Thanks to you. Once again, life is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Je vous remercie. C'était absolument éclairant. I have a whole new appreciation. You have Esper Lucat, our eyes, to this incredible work of art. I really appreciated how you shared. This was 2 years of his work that culminated in this 4 hours of painting this. It was truly remarkable. I really hope that all of you will get a chance to see the exhibition if you haven't, and come back again. This feels like something that you could see and re-see many times over. On espère que vous revenez bientôt Baltimore. We please visit us again. And to all of you, thank you again for being here, and we hope to see you again soon. Please help me in thanking them once again.